icon William Shatner weighed in urging Albertans to use the federal government's app. So we wanted to speak with Mr. Shatner, and he's been kind enough to join us on this Wednesday morning. Thanks for joining us. Nice to have you with us here on BNN Bloomberg.
I believe the pleasure will be mine.
Hopefully you can give us the full story on how you ended up in the middle of this conversation taking place on social media.
Well, I never expected to. Every so often, I get a request from Canada or other places for some help in publicizing something that it looks good to me. Most recently, an elephant in London needs help, and I was trying to get that elephant some company and that kind of thing. So Alberta sent me this notice. We've got this app, and if you get this app on your phone and you get the disease, you say to the app, "I've got the disease," and now you're Bluetoothing around. Everybody else who has an app gets to know that you've got the disease, and they can trace you. So it seemed like a good and interesting and futuristic way of doing things, and I wanted to help, so I publicized it. Well, it turned out that there was some political problems, which, who knows? I'm trying to help as much as I can using this so-called celebrity that I have. The whole reason for talking to you is to talk about Canada and the beautiful thing that Canada is doing in handling, or at least by comparison to the States, in handling the COVID-19 pandemic. But anything that helps mitigate this disaster, I thought might be helpful. So it looks like I got in the midst of something. I don't quite understand why it's wrong. It seems such a futuristic possibility to keep track of, to tell people, I've got this thing, I've got this disease, and if you get Bluetooth by me, you need to be aware of that. So it sounded good. It's a little ahead of its time, and it will take care of itself. It's certainly futuristic.
Well, and it certainly is a time where getting the message out is arguably there's the opportunity to be more effective than ever before. Mr. Shatner, I reached out to Twitter. You might be curious to know that when it comes to your footprint on that platform, you have more followers on that platform than any Canadian politician outside of the Prime Minister. And since COVID began, when you're on that platform, you've got engagement, which is up about 29% from last year. So you've got a megaphone, and there's obviously a lot of people who are curious about not getting mixed messages on COVID.
Well, and that's true. I'm aware that there are a large number of people on all of the social media. Combined, it's many millions of people, and I'm aware of that. And so I try to use that judiciously. There's a great deal of power, I guess, in getting a message out. For example, in my opinion, this whole COVID-19 thing this pandemic is a rehearsal for what's coming up in the future, which is global warming, and we need to look at what we're doing now as the beginning of I don't want to use the word revolution, but there is a coming war that we have to make peace with, and that's the war on climate warming and using alternative energy means. I'm with a company called Solar Alliance. It's a Canadian company that's putting in solar power. Did it in my house. And I became fascinated by the possibility of alternative power and the necessity of going that way immediately, and realizing that this pandemic and trying to get the world together to fight it, and having the technology to get a vaccine within a year, which it has taken 8, 10, 20 times longer than that in the past, we have the possibility of mitigating global warming with alternative energy. And Canada is on the forefront of that. And this Canadian company, Solar Alliance, is a small cap company doing their best and doing very well. But all of us, the world around us, needs to know there is an epidemic coming this way that will make this one look childish unless we do something about it.
You know, it's interesting to hear you say all of that, because on the one hand, we've been having that conversation for years, but we cover the stock market, and the ideas being put forward by someone like Elon Musk, for example, get an awful lot of attention. And so 2020 has been a year, not just when we, to your point, think about the future and the green economy, but investors are rushing into a lot of these businesses because they think they can make a buck.
Well, that's good. Fine, make a buck. But realize that we all bear a responsibility. There's this theory of Mother Earth, Gaia, and Gaia, because there are certain, Mother Earth has the ability to move the air, breathes, and has circulation in the ocean. And so in some Greek tradition, the god of Earth is Gaia. But Gaia, and again, the attempt to make it look like it's alive, has a fever. And the way our bodies, human bodies, get rid of germs is a high temperature, and it kills the germs. The Earth is doing the same thing. We have got to care for Gaia before Gaia says, I can't take you pests any longer, and here's how I get rid of you. And she will get rid of us.
Obviously, technology is moving so quickly that a lot of people make these comparisons back to the things they first saw on Star Trek. And then in Hollywood, I would love your take on what's going on during the pandemic. And of course, movie theaters have been impacted. So you got all these streaming businesses moving fast and furious. What has been the buzz in your industry?
Totally changed. I have done an album, a really terrific album. I had a Christmas album out last year that did very well. I did a blues album, which went #1 this past year. I'm doing an album from home. I've got a great lyricist, and we're working on songs. He lives in New York. The musician who's putting music to this lives upstate New York, and I'm in California. We've completed numbers. We've got 18 songs that we have devised using this method that we're doing right now. I've got a international interview going with you, and it's on my phone, which I was just reading a book from. I was reading a book prior to talking to you, which I bought on my phone, and I'm reading from my phone. I'm talking internationally with you on my. The world has changed in a brief time. We can't even keep up with the changes that are taking place now. And so when we emerge from the pandemic, which should be the next several months, and we start to move around again, nothing will be the same. My grandchildren, my children, they're all changed by the fact that they've had to focus on themselves and on their immediacy, and not be charging out around the world in their world, but having to focus on themselves and improving themselves because of the time given to them by the fact that they're quarantined. It's an amazing new structure happening all over the world, and especially in the world that you just mentioned, in the show business world. I don't know. I mean, when I did a previous album, I was surrounded by microphones and people and orchestra and innumerable people. 3 people wrote this album and recorded this album. That's the difference.
It absolutely is. I guess the flip side would be, You know, you're someone who, to your point, has had so many interactions over the year. As much as we've been able to have some self-reflection, and technology has allowed us to keep going during the pandemic, we're all craving that one thing. I mean, is there once it is safe to get out in the world again, is there something on your to-do list?
I have been lucky. My heart goes out to all the people who haven't got what I've got. I've got a home with enough room to move around. My wife. I'm able to get in my car and go 45 minutes and go to a stable where I have horses. And without touching anybody, getting anywhere near, I get on a horse and I'm able to do this sport that I'm so vitally interested in called reining, an equine skill. But my point is, I'm able to get out and exercise and do things, and found that the time I'm able to focus on reading, on research, on recording the album, on writing, on working with Solar Alliance, for example, on trying to get this message out about alternative fuels. I've created a world of opportunity and creativity around me because I've been forced to focus, sit in front of this light and this phone and a camera. I've been forced to focus solely on individual opportunities as against rushing around as I usually do. And I've heard that from a number of people. Having to now realize to live in the immediate presence is what I'm learning from the pandemic. To appreciate just talking to you, to appreciate I'm looking at a pen and the ability to write on a piece of paper. That's an enormous invention. To have a ballpoint pen, so to focus on what is happening now, today, inside yourself, outside yourself, that could be one of the benefits of this terrible scourge that's happening. For those of us who are still alive, to be able to focus on the beauty of life and the immediacy of death and the value of helping our fellow human beings when the time comes we can get out. I mean, it's all there for our taking. It's all there for us to make good of what's happening to us individually. To try and make what's happening in your life right now beneficial as against being positive instead of being negative, it's a challenge, but it can be done.
Some great insight. And Mr. Shatner, we appreciate your time this morning and good luck with everything. Keep us posted on the blues album as well.
Thank you. It's called Love, Death, and Horses, and I don't know what the title will be, but it'll be out in the beginning of next year. Pleasure to talk to you.
Okay. Likewise, William Shatner joining us.